quick note before we start. This is the best microphone I have. I can only record on my computer. Sorry. So, you want to get a leopard gecko? You made an excellent choice of a pet. But you may be wondering, how exactly do you care for a leopard gecko? Well, today's episode of Leopard Gecko Help will hopefully inform you of all the fundamentals. From housing to feeding, all the basics will be touched today. Leopard geckos are some of the most popular pet reptiles, and for good reason. They're easy to provide for, hardy, and most importantly, adorable. I'm Audrey, here with my Leo Pokey, and here on Leopard Gecko Help, I'll teach you everything you want to know about a Leo. Now, to begin, where should my Leo live? A Cronion Tankermore. Cronion should only be used for babies and juveniles if you must. If you would like to handle and bond with your gecko better, get a tank that has front opening doors. The tank does not have to be tall since Leos do not need much vertical space. Next, you'll need substrate, which will cushion your gecko and give them a place to use the bathroom. 2. Use Repke carpet, paper towels, eco-earth, or even slabs of rock as substrate. Do not use sand, especially calci sand, walnut shell pieces, or anything that looks like it will harm your gecko. Next, let's discuss heating and lighting, two very important factors for housing a happy gecko. Heating is very important for your Leo. There should be a temperature gradient in your tank, hot to cold. Products shown here are ones that I personally use. A 150 watt heat lamp for your Leo and place it over the hot side of the tank. Leave about 2 feet of space between the heat lamp and the highest spot underneath that the gecko could possibly reach. Also, double check either with a temperature gun or placing your hand under the light that this won't possibly cook your gecko. It should be around 90 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Mats are another thing your gecko needs. Belly heat aids them in digesting their food and just warmth in general. Stick a heat mat under the hot side of your tank. It should be under about a third of the floor space. Petco's and PetSmart where I live do not sell thermostats, which is absolutely dumb because they sell heat mats which cannot function without a thermostat. Your best bet is to buy a thermostat from Amazon or wherever you trust. Plug your heat mat into the thermostat and set the temperature to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Leos on average need to be in an environment of 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Always check with the thermometer that the heat mat is not cooking your gecko alive. Also, just a reminder that almost all of the products shown on here I use too. Lighting is important for Leos too. UVB provides the vitamin D3 which helps them absorb calcium. If you're using a UVB light, don't give them any D3 supplements because too much UVB can harm your Leo. I'm personally using a 5.0 UVB and I think that's the correct UVB you should use. Remember to provide your gecko lots of places to hide and sleep, aka hides. You want at least 3, one on the hot side of the tank, one on the cold side, and one wherever the most humidity might build up, like in the middle of the tank somewhere. You might want to place it more on the hot side or the cold side, depending on how humid it gets in the hide after a while. Your moist hide's purpose is to assist your Leo in shedding. The hide I use is the Zilla Rock layer. You can also make one yourself by cutting a hole in a plastic Tupperware container and then putting wet paper towel inside. It is important to sand down the sides of the hole though, because it could possibly cut your gecko. Put a moist paper towel on the floor of your moist hide. It is recommended that you have a moist hide that can contain humidity. So don't use something with too many or too large holes. Check often that the paper towel is still moist until your gecko has successfully shed. It is recommended that you also have a digital thermometer with a probe to check and ensure the temperature of your heat mat. Analog and strip thermometers tend to not work, so go with digital. Remember to set up your enclosure before you get your Leo. Before moving on to food and drink, quick disclaimer that leopard geckos eat live food. So if you're squeamish or just can't keep a steady flow of live food for your Leo, you may want to choose a different pet. When I first got Pokey, I thought some measly freeze-dried mealworms would do the trick. Boy, was I wrong. It took me 2 days to learn that Pokey would not eat it. Leos eat crickets, mealworms, and dubia roaches as meals. Some can be picky and prefer to eat something one day and something else the next. I haven't personally had this problem yet. As a treat, you can give them superworms or hornworms. Only as a treat, as these contain lots of fat. Don't worry too much about overfeeding your Leo. They'll refuse any more food if they're full. Always coat the feeder bugs in calcium powder. Calcium is essential for these geckos. Without enough of it, they will contract metabolic bone disease. Their bones will not develop correctly and they will be very fragile and sickly. Their back, jaw, arms, any sort of bone will be malformed. Provide a water dish, preferably on the cool side of the tank. That's all your gecko needs to survive. Now for some helpful tips, tricks, and advice that you may want to know. Always provide your gecko with a vitamin and calcium powder. I personally use Zoomed's ReptiCalcium, which also contains D3, the vitamins they would get from the sun. The main thing here is that they need calcium powder on their food, and in a little tray in their enclosure at all times. They will lick the calcium tray you provide them if they're running low on calcium. When Leos shed, they eat their skin. Leopard geckos are crepuscular, which means they wake up at around twilight and go to sleep at around sunrise. So they're similar to being nocturnal. If you have an albino Leo, those have red eyes and a lack of melanin in skin, you do not need a UVB. It will harm their eyes. Just use D3 supplements for them. If your Leo has stuck shed, put it in a small container of warm water, no deeper than its belly. Let it soak. Ease away the stuck shed using a Q-tip. A healthy, well-fed gecko should have a big, fat tail. Leos can drop their tails. However, because their tail is their fat storage, they most likely won't drop it unless you frighten them terribly, or pull on it. The tail will grow back, but it will look abnormal. Putting your gecko next to a bright, sunny window will not provide them UVB. Windows filter out UVB. If your gecko isn't eating, it could either be because it is stressed, sick, full, or about to shed. If you're very worried about this, take your Leo to a vet. Baby Leos will scream and bite anything larger than them. The bites don't hurt at all and don't cause bleeding, but their screams sure are startling. Okay, done. After hearing all that, do you think you have the resources necessary for your future friend to thrive? Although leopard geckos are very amazing and cute, you want to make absolutely sure you can take care of one. Thank you for listening, and I wish you and your future Leo luck in your leopard gecko